So today
Today.
it's about platform over country.
Mhm.
No.
So tell me, when you hear that phrase, what comes to your mind?
So when I hear the thing of platform over country, I can say network over country, and it's the question in a human being's life: what affects you the most, the country you were born in, or the network you're part of? No. And
Define network.
define what?
Network.
Network is the people you know, um, and through the people you know, the messages you've been exposed to,
Mm.
which defines the way you look at your other human beings and the way you look at the world.
Mm.
Um, it's your role models somehow, or the people you go to, even if realizing it, just to make sense of when things are not making sense in your life, you know? And so I ask myself that question: what affects you the most? And what defines a human being? Is a human being more defined by the country he was born in or by the network he's part of? Um, and the more I think of that, the more it becomes clearer. I think if everybody looks at our own life, I would say that the network is more important than the country.
Mm.
You know, because even within one country, let's say the difference between you and someone else will be what network you're part of.
Right.
But you can be part of an international network of people that think the same, and you transit through the world through that network. For example, I was talking to a friend of mine who lives in New York. He's an entrepreneur. He has a biotech company, and he was talking to investors here in New York because he lives in New York, and from time to time traveling to the West Coast, to San Francisco, to talk to investors. And he was telling me it's incredible how, for example, in San Francisco, people understand faster my business model than the investors here in New York.
Right.
And he decided to move his whole family, I mean, with two kids, just to be part of that network,
Mm.
because he was telling me that even though going back and forth, he made friends, but to actually really build that level of trust,
Right.
so he can be completely open and have people that support him to actually make his company grow, he needs to be part there. He needs to have real estate there. He needs to be, so
Committed.
exactly. And that commitment, he said, of course, we were talking about it because we both share that same understanding, and because it's spending time with those people, the people that they can help you figure out things you're not figuring out yourself. And it's like a loop because it's each person helping the other. So when you value that type of relationship, you end up like moving your physical body to that place so you
Mm.
can spend more time with those people that have the same question that you have, or have the same, you know energy to build the type of things that you're looking at.
It's tribal instinct.
Tribal instinct. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a nice way to look at it.
Because I think, and we can go a lot deeper into this, but I think ingrained as us, all as human beings through evolution, we still have the tribal instincts
Yeah.
of our ancestors, and I think a huge part of the problem in society today is losing that, or losing the outlet for that. And I think a lot of the time subconsciously we search for that, which is also a big part of why people join gangs or terrorist organizations, or it's that longing to be
The
part
community.
of a community.
Got it.
And but it's something that, and it's not valued to, I don't think it's something that it's encouraged or necessarily valued or something we even really learn about anymore growing up. And I just think it's such a fundamental part of who we are as human beings, that when it's a force for good, it's a great force for good. But so much of us as human beings being lost in the world is searching for that community. And so when we find it, like in the case of your friend, we just latch on, because
Exactly.
suddenly things that didn't make sense. And we realize that we can't always do it alone, that we are somehow part of a team.
That's so interesting. You know, that's so interesting because I remember as I grew up studying, you study countries.
Sure.
and you understand that there are certain countries that are more advanced than others, and there are certain places things happen, and certain other places things don't happen that fast in terms of wealth creation or creativity or all those things. And as I transit through life, this is very personal for me. I understood that it's the people you meet that can make a huge shift in what your life is about. And I'm not thinking in terms of definition of success, but just even accepting where you are, okay, which is which is called wisdom, which is accepting life for what it is. That has absolutely nothing to do with the country you were born in, but more has to do with the people you met in your life,
Right.
to help you understand how to deal with that, you know, how to deal with reality the way it is, instead of always trying to chase something that we think is reality but it's not, and how to be okay with that, you know. Those are things that you find through networks. When I mean networks, through people that have gone through that themselves. And by you being around them and you sharing with them, you get a little of that. Sometimes, you know, sometimes I've met people and 10 years later, I understood something they told me because I'm going through it at that moment. And then what they told me made sense to me, you know? And I say, if I've never met those people at that moment, I would have missed that understanding. So that makes me go back, you know, Warren Buffett always said that he was lucky to be born in the United States, because what he knows how to do is to pick great companies. And there is nowhere else in the world where that skill is really well compensated, because on average, if you would been in any other stock market in the world, you would have, and your job is to pick great companies, you would less likely be successful compared to if you do that in the United States. And so when I was younger, I thought that made a lot of sense, and now for me it makes less and less sense, because I think he was lucky to have his dad rather than being born in the United States, because there are many people born in the United States but they're not Warren Buffett. Because what he was really lucky about is that his dad was a congressman, and with an incredible work ethic, that very young in life he knew those two things, which is value people and value hard work, which is the two message that he has, you know. And because of his dad's network, he went to a good school as well. You know what I mean? And then through school, meeting people, he read certain books, but books are available, but it's not enough to have the books. You need someone to explain to you the hidden meaning behind everything. And that's always part of a network. That's why he understood that. And the books he loved the most, he found the people who wrote it to teach him how to invest. Again, which is value investing. But again, it's about network. It's about him being able to have access to those networks.
Mm.
And let's forget country. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't matter where you're born. You need to find the networks that help you develop whatever you're looking to develop.
Yeah.
And you will find your way around cities, because he was born in the city he was born, but he studied in Pennsylvania and he studied in New York. You understand? And then he went back to his hometown. But the point is, once you're part of that network, then it doesn't matter where you live. But at the beginning, you need to be meeting people, understanding those different angle of life, and understand how to be part of something.
Mm.
You know, and the more I understand that, the more I understand how important it is. Imagine if someone like Warren Buffett could be born anywhere else in the world, or someone like Mozart. I think of Mozart, so we always think of this boy genius. Yeah, but he was a boy genius because his dad was already a great artist, and his dad was already playing in the courts in Europe. So from a very young age, his dad said, I'm gonna make him a great artist, so very young I can introduce him to the courts in Europe. Imagine if he wasn't part of his dad's network. How many Mozart are born there and we don't ever listen
Absolutely.
and hear about them?
And I see that a lot in my work in war-torn places and things. I meet brilliant people that have a way better work ethic than even I have,
Mhm.
or far more committed to certain things, but they don't have the opportunity. There is no way out for them.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking, and it's something that we have to value in. We can say a lot of these things because we do come from a place of privilege in where we live, that a lot of people just don't have. And and it's a shame, but it's the way the world works. It's not a fair place. But even in the microcosm that is the United States, so much of it has to do with your zip code, where you're going to go to school, what education you're going to end up with, has to do with what part of the zoning in a town that
Of
you happen
course.
to live in.
Yes.
and that's sort of where it all starts. So we still have many problems here in that respect, and so much of society even now is really built on, again, it's connections and network. And oftentimes it's not the best people who are put in charge of leadership of companies. It's literally they inherited it because maybe their father worked hard and they inherited running a massive corporation or a publishing house, and it's nothing to do, and it's frustrating for the people because that maybe do have the talent or the ethics or the ability, but unless you happen to be born into the right name or have those privileged connections, your potential may never be realized, and that's the reality of the world that we live in.
Yes. It's like, so one of the things I've learned through life is value more what is not physical. Okay, that may sound crazy what I'm saying
Of
in terms
course.
of doesn't make sense, but
I'm with you.
I value much more what is not physical than what is physical, and I'm very practical about it. It's like when someone say, "What is your asset?" Okay, and they start naming the things they own, things, physical things. Say, my house is worth that, my my stocks is worth that, and I have so much cash in my bank account. Okay, but for me, much more valuable than all those things is being part of the right network of people. Why is that a difference? Because if you inherited a bunch of money and you don't have the right messages, you will lose it in less than a year. Because whatever you have is because you can sustain it. And most of the things you sustain is because of the messages you receive and the help you receive from everyone around you. That means it's much more important to be part of a good network than having a good net worth. You know, because money is just an expression of what you understand, the way I look at it. You know, the things you have are just a reflection of how useful you are within that network. And it has not so much to do with capacity. You know, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just looking at the way things are. Because to build that trust, to be part of that network, there are relationships that needs to be built. There are you owe me, I owe you type of things that are not written anywhere. And those are the type of things that I say are much more valuable than having real assets. So I see myself on this planet as a human being, and I understand that the most important asset is human creativity. Okay? For me, that is the most important asset. It's because everything else we see is just an expression of that. And I think the biggest risk for humanity is having people with incredible talent but not being able to be part of the right network so we can all profit from that talent. Imagine someone is a basketball player. If you don't get to the NBA, I mean, whatever you brought with you, you won't make any money with it. But it's not just about making money with it. You imagine the whole industry around an athlete. So many people getting joy and also getting a way of life and able to, you know,
feel passionate about something.
Exactly.
To follow it, to care deeply about it. You know, for me, it's a little foreign because I always find it challenging to understand how people can be so invested in something that doesn't affect their day-to-day life whatsoever. But I have learned to appreciate it as a unifier for people, and to feel, again, you go back to feeling part of a community.
Yes.
You want to feel part of a cluster and a crowd of people where you can share a mutual connection because you're both going for the same team.
Exactly.
And it's the tribal mentality of fighting against the enemy and, you know, backing something and supporting something. And I think it's that real human instinct. You know, to look outside ourselves. It's not just an entertainment, but it's a really deep-seated, passionate investment in being part of a community.
Exactly. And you imagine, so the people running those big networks, because that's how you can look at, for example, just say the NBA or the NFL or baseball, you know, making sure that the right talent are at the right places. You know, you can be born anywhere in the world, but you have to make your way into that network to actually, whatever you are as a talent, can make money with it. Because if you're not part of that network, that...
And that goes with saying with pretty much anything. I'm sure there are so many amazing singers out there. I'm sure there are amazing writers out there. There are amazing creatives out there that'll never see the light of day because they will never get their work in front of the right person, and that comes from just not being in a place or having the connections or the ability or the finances or whatever it's going to take to be seen. And it's about that visibility, and it's really tough.
It is tough.
It's a tough grind because so much talent is wasted, but it's an unfortunate way of life. And you know, you could say that's one great thing about sort of the technological advances of today, whether it's YouTube or other things, is it's a platform for people if they have that access and have that, and still a lot of people don't, but if they have that access and ability to somehow navigate that online world, then they can get themselves or their work in front of a much broader scope of audience that previously, at least when I was growing up, that never existed.
Totally. So your network will define much more whatever impact you have on yourself and in the world. And even if when you look at a country, most successful countries are the one that they call upward mobility, which is it doesn't matter where you were born, but you can navigate yourself around and change network where what you have can be better expressed and make money with it. And societies that are more rigid about it usually tend to not develop that fast. So the good thing about it, because when I'm saying, okay, if it's network over country, and technology actually is that network. If we look at the internet, which is the web of web, is the network of network, you know? And I think technology has a good, in that sense, in terms of building networks of ideas, networks of resources, networks of time, because in the end, it's time and energy. Everything you keep pushing, you end up being, it's a question of, do I have enough energy or do I have enough time to find a solution or to solve what I need to solve? I think those things will create an incredible outcome that we don't even see, because human creativity is unlimited. And when you can connect to the right network, that means to the right people stimulating you without having to move physically there, that you can still create those same connections and receive the same messages, we will be surprised of how much more potential we had. It's like I see this like you're sitting in a gold mine, but you don't have the tools to take the gold out. So for me, human creativity is unlimited. What we don't have yet is an efficient way to wherever you are to put you on the right track, on the right network. Because this is how we get out of the mess we're in. Because I see it as a capacity problem that, I always go back to the concept of entropy, which is pretty simple, which is like aging. In life, as time goes by, things decay, you know? If you're living in a house, the older the house, more work you need to do to keep the house clean, more work you need to do to keep the house beautiful. Our reality as human beings is to take care of 8 billion people. It becomes more and more complex. But we have the capacity to do it. But to solve it, what you need to do is to use better resources. And our resources is human creativity. But the way things are not right now, we have so much capacity out of the right networks. So even we have incredible talent and incredible potentiality, it's worth zero as long as you put it on the network and we can all benefit from those talents. And we can take those people and train them to be even better at what they receive naturally. Because when you look at the human race, the reason we survive is because each individual can randomly have the solution for what we're looking for. And our job is to make sure that wherever that solution is, you connect it in the time you have where the problem is. This is how you survive in your life, in your community, and on this planet. Because if each human being knows something that is different than the human being next to him, when I need that knowledge, I have to be able to apply it where it's needed, wherever that is, and with the least amount of energy necessary to make that connection. This is how you solve problems. And this is where I see we're going.
And I think we solve problems to solve problems, especially now, living in New York City where it's a lot of hustle and bustle. There's a different layer of concentration that's required to tune out a lot of the external distractions that
Yes.
plague us. And time management is a difficult thing. It's a difficult thing, but to really solve problems, we need to approach them with a clear head, and that's a big struggle in our modern world. Is getting to a place where we can block out what doesn't matter, block out the anxieties, block out the pressures, block out the things that aren't going to get us to solving the problem at that point, and approaching something with a clear head. And that's a struggle in today's world. It really is. It's something I struggle with. Um, I think there's so much going on, and to be in a place where I can concentrate requires a simplicity that I think is is hard to come by, and we have to consciously look for it.
Yes, it has always been a privilege to have clarity,
Sure.
you know? And sometimes we forget that, but in all the teachings, however you want to look at it, clarity is the most important treasure. Because when you have clarity, you have everything else. And to keep that clarity is going against distraction, the distraction that take your energy out of what is important. And again, just to repeat myself, because we're on the subject of network or platform over country, those type of understanding, you will get them based on if you've crossed your life with people who learn how to do that. Understanding how to fight those distractions in a way so you can still connect to the clarity you need for your life. You know, it's like I always see people underestimate that they're fighting social media. I mean, social media is an algorithm that his job, and I'm not naming just one, the whole concept of using algorithm to catch my attention. That's energy. Even if I'm not looking at it, that's an energy that I'm fighting against a machine that is trying to show me something useless. And I'm using my vital energy to actually be able to love my wife or my kid or my neighbor because I don't have that energy anymore. Because I lost it into that machine that took it out of me. But not to say that the machine is wrong. I mean, it's a design problem. But like I'm saying, that same machine with the right purpose actually can help me connect to the right person to actually feel better. If that was the objective, you know, if that was the objective, or a smart kid wherever he is in the world. That's why I'm so excited about all those online teaching platforms.
I think they're amazing too.
You understand? There was a time that you needed to go to the Boston area or you needed to go to whatever to be part of the great education. Right now, you can be anywhere in the world and you'll have that education. If you're curious and you're focused, and usually people who don't have much are usually more curious and more focused because they have a reason to and less distraction. Right. So wherever you are, that talent can be actually channeled to solve problems. You know, it's the world is becoming less and less limiting in that sense. Less and less limiting in that sense. But also, there's the other danger because you have more algorithm trying to distract you more and more. So I don't think it's a question of balance. I think it's a question of making a conscious decision of design. How do I use technology for?
For good.
Exactly. And good meaning survival for me. You know? Good meaning every life matters. I'm very strict about that. Whenever someone tells me for the greater good of you have to go, I don't, how do you pick the few that have to go?
Oh, you mean like social Darwinism sort of thing?
What exactly? Right. You know what I mean?
I get told that a lot.
Oh my God.
Well, you know, that's...
No, for me...
I can acknowledge where it's coming from.
I understand.
I can acknowledge where it's coming from, and I can empathize with that point of view, but I also think it's a lazy
exactly
answer. And just to segue off that, from my own experiences, as a war reporter, one of the most frustrating things that I hear all too often from people is this idea that, well, there are just some societies that have to live under a dictatorship because that's the only way that they can keep them in check.
I've heard that.
And I just think that is the most bigoted, lazy answer from a place of privilege. For
Mm-hmm.
you to say that about somebody else or society, I mean, that just shows where your position in the world. And I think that is just, who are you to say that not everybody's entitled to live under, I'm not going to say democracy, but something that with a little bit more personal freedom. I just think it's just the laziest answer that politicians and different people can come up with because they can't come up with a solution.
Yes. Yes. The thing is, that subject, I have so many conversation with friends living all around the world about it. And it's the concept that certain people can understand freedom and some people cannot. It's like there is that concept. So, but that has been already solved. Maslow has a pyramid of it. If you have a country with a bunch of people who cannot eat, well, they don't understand the value of freedom yet because they
Their
cannot
basic
eat.
instincts of
Exactly.
survival are not met.
You understand? So they don't even have enough energy to understand what you're talking about. So as long as you keep within a certain geography, people with not enough energy or enough security around them, it's totally that you need another beast to be managing them
Right.
because they're close to a beast as well. Because we don't have to forget that human being, what we see ourselves as is because of our environment. If you take away physical security, food security, health security, we become another animal. But as you provide that more and more, the brain relaxes and he can all start to think about self-realization and other things, and freedom becomes one of them. It's the concept that we are kind. Human being becomes kinder as your security is higher. That means when you don't have to worry about what you're going to eat, when you don't have to worry about if I'm healthy, am I going to be treated or not, you start caring more about the other person because those things are taken care of. You start caring more about freedom and you become kinder. So go again. You take that away, all of a sudden that caring person living in New York, because he's afraid of a disease which is attacking his health, he becomes less caring because survival instincts goes first. So whenever
It's also survival instincts for your tribe. That is your family, that is your
Exactly.
children, your parents, your people around you. You develop the survival instinct that I think, oh my God, if I get it, they're going to get it. And then, and then, I still think the tribal part of it comes in.
Yes, what you call your network, what you
Yeah.
understand that is
Yeah.
responsible for you. So the thing is, a lot of the violence we see in the world for me is just people not eating. Because
Absolutely.
if they eat enough and their security is taken care of and their health is taken care of, they start worrying about freedom now. They start worrying about other level of cognition that the brain doesn't have access because you don't have enough energy. Okay, so that's why it's so important the network you're part of, because based on the network, you can be in the same country, but when you're in certain network, they take care of certain things for you. So you become that other part of that human being that you couldn't have access because you didn't have enough energy if you need to take care of everything for yourself.
Right.
It's like I'm always saying, why instead of helping someone else, why don't I help them become themselves? That way I have to work less.
Here's
know?
an interesting way of reversing, and this is something I think we've lost a lot of in Western societies. Again, going back to that network. So when I work in a lot of war-torn places, whether it's Afghanistan or Iraq or something, there's this sort of idea. I mean, you would never. Food is difficult if you're struggling, but people just share. It doesn't matter if you have 5 kids or 10 kids.
Yeah.
The kids will never, if you're in a decent enough family, you'll never go hungry because your neighbors will always give you food.
Yeah.
Your extended family it's a sharing kind of culture. Even the way the place, the mat is put on the floor and all the food is put out and everybody, takes their share, and that's just the way it is.
Yes.
You never have to worry about those kind of basic, because it's very communal. Whereas here, we don't sort of have that family orientation. We don't have, we're far more isolated. We don't have that community sensibility. And so therefore, food is something that becomes a point of struggle for a lot of people. It becomes a point of concern. The things that aren't taken care of in our society are the things that we fixate on. And ironically, it's in a lot of these poor places that really have the strongest sense of communal values, and never letting their neighbor go hungry, or never letting those things get in the way that of all the things that we stress about here in our modern lives. And I think it's a shame that we've just lost that sensibility. We're a very isolated culture, and you look at the suicide rates here, they're just astronomical. There's something like 120 people in the United States that take their lives every single day. It's shockingly high. When I read the statistic recently on something, I was just shocked. But we don't hear about it. It doesn't make the news. But so much of that is because people are just isolated and they're lost. And the older you get, and that's the interesting thing, is that it's mostly male, men over the age of 60 that are killing themselves. And it's because the older you get, the more of your network dies away, or that you lose, and you become more isolated, and you are on your own. You have to fight and survive, and it's tough because you don't have anybody that you can really rely on. And I just think if we all took more time to have that sense of tribe and community, just what a difference it would make to people's mental health.
The thing is, like you said, human being needs to know that they're part of something, whatever that something is.
Yeah, and they're of value.
And that what they do have an impact on someone else. And they need to see it, and they need to feel it. That if they're not around, something is missing. Now, the funny thing about it, when you look at modern society, the way the economy works, we actually need each other at a more complex level. You understand? Actually, the reason I can go to a supermarket and buy food is because there is a whole logistic based on each other helping each other to get that food to my fridge. But we lost that connection. But that doesn't mean the connection is lost, because if there is no connection within a network, I will die. Because someone has to plant that food, treat it a certain way, put it on a truck, get it in a warehouse, and I can just go to the supermarket and buy it. So it's not that that network disappeared. My understanding of it becomes more abstract. And I don't realize how me driving that bus is actually helping the whole country to eat every day. No one helped me make that connection anymore, because I just see myself driving a truck. But in reality, modern society are actually wealthier because they're more connected, but at a more abstract level that we don't really see as a human being, because our brain doesn't make the connection. So naturally, I mean, the universe is telling us the way you see galaxy connected. The more connected you are, the higher probability of survival, because you have a higher probability of finding the right answers within your network.
I read something that reminds me, I read something interesting this morning. When you get the answers, the questions change.
Exactly that. Exactly that. Because you unblock the next question. And this is the beauty of learning. But you get to the answer through your network. Whatever you want to call that network. So right now, with social media, with the web, my network becomes bigger. But I still need to find my way in it, because people think the internet is neutral. Internet is not neutral.
And it's clearly becoming less neutral as it goes on.
It's totally not neutral. When I ask a question, let's say, to use the word that I use, any search engine, there is an algorithm that decide how to present to me the information. So usually when I ask a question, the answer is, this is what everyone else is thinking. So,
but when it comes up, like Google will come up with those sort of 10 you might type someone's name in, and then Google comes up with sort of automatic the 10 biggest searches of that. It
Yes.
thinks it's going to say, and some of it is so erroneous.
But it,
It's been sued over it
exactly.
before.
But it's not only Google. It's the way the indexing. It's the
Yeah.
indexing algorithm answers you when you ask a question. The answer is this is what most people think is the answer, so this is right, which is probably wrong. You understand? It's like the fact that many people think of something that doesn't mean it's real or that it's right.
No, but then it perpetuates what's something that's incorrect.
There you go. So that's why it's not neutral whenever I ask a question. Or if I use another platform, I say, how I ask a question, the answer will say, this is what your friends are thinking. This is the answer. Yeah, but if I have the wrong friends, they're all thinking the wrong answer for the problem I have in front of me right now because we can deal with it so I don't get to the answer. So again, internet is not neutral. So that means today I think the most important skill is to know how to navigate through those walls that we don't see that are trying to force us through a certain answer when the answer can be somewhere else. That ability of critical thinking, of understanding why would most people think that is the right answer, but in reality it's not, and understand how those algorithms are working. Because if you have a question and you keep Googling that answer, you will come with the same answer that everybody is thinking is the answer, even if it's wrong. But it's not a question of Google, it's a question of how the algorithms work. And those are where I say we need more conscious design in how we use those algorithms in our life. And understanding that, again, is part of your network, because if you're part of a network of people who understand how those algorithms work, you might most likely will know how to get away from that bias. But if you don't know how it works, you'll never understand that there was a bias put on you before asking a question again. And that's why I'm so excited about all the possibilities that those networks or platforms will provide for each human being, each individual. But I'm very conscious of purposeful design when you're building those platforms, when you're building those networks. Because I think, and that's where it comes when I say it's platform over country or network over country. I think humanity's survival depends much more on how those technological possibilities of creating network over countries find the answers faster, because countries coordinating answers has a certain speed, but individual coordinating answers through a network that move faster, we have a higher level of survivalship in terms of community. So if I'm here in New York and the person that has the answer is in a little town with 2 people, the faster I can connect to that person, to the answer I'm looking for, the higher the probability of me surviving because I'm solving my problem. And those go beyond countries because I don't really care where that person is. All I need to know is that person part of a trust network, that I can trust the network, that that person is on that network. And I think that's more and more what will make us go faster, which is the ability to use technology to create trust, to create connections, and to connect question with answers faster than you could do in the physical world. It's like the more I understand that, it's like, for example, I use LinkedIn a lot.
Yeah, of all the social media, LinkedIn is the most valuable to me.
You understand? So
Because you know what? It doesn't have all the BS about personal lives and people aren't posting what they're eating and posting about their love life and all that noise and all that stuff that you really should keep offline.
Exactly.
LinkedIn is strictly about business. And anytime somebody starts messaging me, it happens from time to time that I think it's not appropriate for LinkedIn, they're gone, deleted.
Yes.
Because this is a business platform. This isn't a dating online forum,
Exactly.
So I really appreciate LinkedIn too, and it's helped me tremendously with my work and my
Yes.
connections.
For example, sometimes I'm struggling with a question. I just look through my LinkedIn who is researching that. And out of the blank, I say, hey, what do you think of this? And because, like you said, it's a serious platform, they can look at my, or they can see, oh, this is the guy is trying to solve this thing. And I got great answers, and having great conversation with people anywhere in the world just because they can help me solve something. But it's still not as deep as I would want to, because you still have to meet the person and then create that relationship and create that bond until you get the full extension of their knowledge open to you. But at least I find it a very good first step, a very good first step, because you can actually see what they're about, what they're trying to solve. But again, I think this is just the beginning of how this will look like, because even when I look at LinkedIn, there's so much more that can be done on top of that, and I'm pretty excited about the things. I mean, and this is my great personal bet in human potential. Is I define the most important resource as creativity of human being. That's why I value life. I value each second of a human being's life, because that's what creates that connection with the infinite. Because physical things are limited. It's when you put ideas on physical things, you create unexpected. The unexpected always comes through a human being's idea, through a human being pushing beyond what he knows. So my personal bet is that our biggest resource is human creativity, wherever that human being is. And what we need to fight is cosmic entropy and time. So I have enormous faith, not faith, it's like understanding of developing better networks through algorithms to allocate time, answers, and matching with questions is how we solve the mess we're in. And this is like a personal commitment based on understanding. It's not a wishful thinking anymore, and this is the best we've built so far, the ability to connect network faster than countries, faster than where you were born today. You look at someone like you were saying, Justin Bieber, it was in Canada, a young guy singing, and then the network took him and they made a famous guy of him.
Yeah, that was Usher. Usher discovered him.
Exactly. So all those things are real. But and when I hear, so at allocation level, all those biases in the system, there are biases, because the people will define much more what impact you have in life than what you know. It's like you can have a great idea, but if you just send an email to investors, they will never give you money.
Right.
You need a proper introduction. What does that mean? Nothing. I just trust this guy.
Yeah.
So we need better ways to solve those things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And people are going to pay a lot more attention to something when it comes from somebody they know.
Exactly.
Than somebody cold calling.
Exactly. So you don't have to blame. It's just the way it is. So those are the things we need to solve, because what happened is,
that's why people have agents. That's why people have representation. It's because those people are inbuilt with the contacts.
It becomes gatekeepers.
And that's why, they're the gatekeepers. And,
exactly.
And you're relying on their relationships, and they're relying on your talent to make a living.
Exactly. Which is nothing wrong with that. From a design point of view,
it works quite effectively.
Exactly. But it becomes a problem when you have an output problem, because what happened is you have way more talent out there wanting to get in, but the gatekeepers don't know how to deal with that amount of number. So this is where I see we have no clue how powerful creativity is in human being, because we don't have the system yet to deal with it. So, it's like most companies. So when you look at a point of view of strategic investment, okay, if I'm a big boss at a big company and I have access to resources, but I have very little creativity inside my company because my system works so well that people know what they have to do.
Well, that's the unfortunate structure of corporate America now.
Exactly. So people know what they have to do. They don't have to create too much. They just have to be efficient. Okay. So the way strategic investment is really used is, so when a young company is coming with a technology that can disrupt me, so me as the big boss, my best decision is buy them to close them. because by doing that, I keep my system running as the best system out there. Okay, so there is an understanding that using acquisition of technology as a defensive move is okay, but the consequence is that we're killing creativity. Because again, by being part of the existing design, I am being a gatekeeper to new design. So this is why I'm so optimistic about the future, because I understand less centralized design will help solve those type of problems, because you will have groups that will emerge and connect to a bigger network and still sharing those type of creativity without being destroyed within the one ruling the existing system. It's like, if you have small group of companies being able to create a product until the end, and being able to create niche product and niche market and develop market before being acquired by the existing player in the market, those will create better solution, more solution, and even more wealth. Today, it's impossible to do it, because of the way resource allocation is managed from a point of view of where do you get money. But those are the places where I see technology is going to solve them, And I'm really optimistic because I have children, and I understand the struggle we're going through now, and I look at my children and I'm optimistic about that, because I see in my work especially, and I say, if I'm thinking how to solve those things and I'm building them, so I know there's a lot of people thinking the same way, and it will be solved because technology used with purpose to connect networks is what will create the unexpected in a positive way, you know, um, because you understand that what you need is each human being to express themselves to the fullest. Because if each human being expresses themselves to the fullest, the network becomes more powerful because I have less copycat. So each individual becomes a real contributor, and the algorithms are more able to find that unique contributor and match it to the real problem that we need to solve one by one. So when I start talking about these things, they look a little abstract from the angle of design, but it's as simple as, if I go on Amazon, how do I find the product I want?
Right.
You know? So this is an incredible network solution, because all of a sudden I know one place where I have one question, I find a physical answer, which is
Right.
Amazon.
Right.
But in reality, Amazon, I don't look at it as a company. I look at it as a network that gives me physical solutions.
Right.
You know, so the internet is still biased, because when I ask a question, I don't find the answer I'm looking for.
Right.
I most likely will find the answer everybody thinks is the answer, or what my friends are thinking. Okay, those are the type of things we will start solving with algorithms.
Right.
How, when an individual asks a specific question, how do I know how to answer them better?
Right.
Based on that individual asking that question rather than what everyone else is asking.
But I mean, think how far it's even come anyway. You know, it's come a long way,
Exactly.
and it will continue to go a long way,
It-
and it will continue to develop. And who knows where it will be in 2 or 3 years.
Yes. And those things, they jump, they're
Yeah.
quantum leaps. They don't go like linearly. It's exponential, and the brain doesn't understand how to deal with exponential. It's
Right.
like you wake up, boom, oh wow, now we have a solution. Yeah, the solution was there all along, but it's just it took time to make the connections.
Right.
And I think this is where I see our survivorship rate as human being become better and better is through network technology.
Right.
Network technology and using artificial intelligence and algorithms to help manage better connecting solution with problems. This is where I see things are very optimistic from my point of view.
Right. No, I agree with you. Well, I mean, yeah, it's going to be an interesting conversation to revisit in a year or two.
Probably.
Yeah. We're talking about all these things that we didn't even know exist. Things that aren't at all in our lives now that will likely be very prevalent in our lives in a couple of years' time.
Yes. And hopefully to make us care more about each other.
I hope
So
so
we can
too.
value each other more.
I hope so too.
Yes.
Yeah, just basic civility and kindness is something I try to impress. And if I use my social media for anything, that's the message, the simple message. I just want people to remember to take care of each other. And we all have differences, but we all have a lot that unites us. Um, and there's just no place to perpetuate hate and nastiness that I see too much of.
Yeah.
And that's, we can all play a small part in making other people's lives, even strangers' lives, better every day.
Yeah.
And we've just lost that train of thought. And if I can do anything, it's to remind people of that.
Exactly. The infinite power in human creativity, and how much good you can do to anyone's life just by helping them finding an answer.
By a simple smile
Exactly.
and some support. Often it's just support we need. We need to know that we're on the right track, and that's it.
That's beautiful.